The tragic and heroic figure of Queen Kunti emerges from an explosive era in the history of ancient India. As related in the Mahabharata, India's grand epic poem of 110,000 couplets, Kunti, Kunti was the wife of King Pandu and the mother of five illustrious sons known as the Pandavas. As such, she was one of the central figures in a complex political drama that culminated 50 centuries ago in the Kurukshetra War, a devastating war of ascendancy that changed the course of world events. The Mahabharata describes the prelude to the Holocaust as follows: Pandu became the king because his elder brother Dhritarashtra had been born blind, a condition that excluded him from direct succession. Some time after Pandu ascended to the throne, Dhritarashtra married Gandhari and fathered 100 sons. This was the ruling family of the Kaurava dynasty, of whom the eldest was the ambitious and the cruel Duryodhana. Meanwhile, Pandu had taken two wives, Madri and Kunti. Originally named Pritha, Kunti was the daughter of Surasena, the chief of the glorious Yadu dynasty. The Mahabharata relates that Kunti was gifted with beauty and character. She rejoiced in the law, Dharma, and was great in her vows. She also possessed an unusual benediction. When she was a child, her father, Surasena, had given her in adoption to his childless cousin and close friend Kunti Boja, hence the name Kunti. In her stepfather's house, Kunti's duty was to look after the welfare of the guests. One day, the powerful sage and the mystic Durvasa came there and was pleased by Kunti's selfless service. Foreseeing that she would have difficulty conceiving sons, Durvasa gave her the benediction that she could invoke any demigod and by him obtain progeny. After Kunti married Pandu, he was placed under a curse that prevented him from begetting children. So he renounced the throne and retired with his wives to the forest. There, Kunti's special benediction enabled her to conceive, at her husband's request, three glorious sons. First, she invoked Dharma, the demigod of religion. After worshipping him and repeating an invocation Durvasa had taught her, she united with Dharma and in time gave birth to a boy. As soon as the child was born, a voice with no visible source said, "This child will be called Yudhishthira and he will be very virtuous. He will be splendid, determined, renounced, and famous throughout the three worlds." Having been blessed with this virtuous son, Pandu then asked Kunti for a son of great physical strength. Thus Kunti invoked Vayu, the demigod of the wind, who begot the mighty Bhima. Upon Bhima's birth, the supernatural voice said, "This child will be the foremost of all strong men." Thereafter, Pandu consulted with the great sages in the forest and then asked Kunti to observe vows of austerity for 1 full year. At the end of this period, Pandu said to Kunti, "O beautiful one, Indra, the king of the heaven, is pleased with you, so invoke him and conceive a son." Kunti then invoked Indra, who came to her and begot Arjuna. As soon as the prince was born, the same celestial voice boomed throughout the sky. "O Kunti, this child will be as strong as Kartavirya and Shibi, were two powerful kings of the Vedic times, and as invincible in battle as Indra himself. He will spread your fame everywhere and acquire many divine weapons. Subsequently, Pandu's junior wife, Madri, bore two sons named Nakula and Sahadeva. These five sons of Pandu, namely Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva, then came to be known as the Pandavas. Now, since Pandu had retired from the throne and gone to the forest, Dhritarashtra had temporarily assumed the throne until Pandu's eldest son, Yudhishthira, came of age. However, long before that time, Pandu died as a result of the curse, and Madri gave up her life as well by ascending his funeral pyre. That left the five Pandavas in the care of Queen Kunti. After Pandu's death, the sages lived in the forest, brought the five young princes and Kunti to the Kaurava court at Astinapura, which is near the present day Delhi. In Astinapura, the capital city of the kingdom, the five boys were raised in royal style under the guidance of Dhritarashtra and the noble Vidura, who is Pandu's half brother. But a smooth transfer of power was not to be. Although Dhritarashtra had at first recognized the primogeniture of Yudhishthira, he later allowed himself to be used by his eldest son, the power hungry Duryodhana, who wished to ascend the throne in place of Yudhishthira. Driven by uncontrollable jealousy, Duryodhana plotted against the Pandavas, and with the hesitant approval of the weak Dhritarashtra, he inflicted many sufferings upon them. He made several attempts on their lives in Astinapura, and then he brought them to a provincial palace and tried to assassinate them by having it set on fire. All the while, the five youthful Pandavas were accompanied by their courageous mother Kunti, who suffered Duryodhana's atrocities in the company of her beloved sons. Miraculously, however, Kunti and the Pandavas repeatedly escaped the hands of death, for they were under the loving protection of Lord Sri Krishna, who had incarnated to perform his earthly pastimes. Ultimately, Duryodhana, a clever politician, cheated the Pandavas out of their kingdom and their freedom in a gambling match. As a result of the match, the Pandavas' wife Draupadi was abused by the Kauravas, and the Pandavas themselves were forced to spend 13 years in exile in the forest, to the great sorrow of Kunti. When the 13-year exile had ended, the Pandavas returned to Astinapura to reclaim their kingdom, but Duryodhana bluntly refused to relinquish it. Then, after some unsuccessful attempts to quell the hostilities, Yudhishthira sent Krishna himself to secure the return of the Pandava kingdom by peaceful means. But even this effort failed because of Duryodhana's obstinacy, and both the sides prepared for battle. To place Yudhishthira on the throne, or to oppose him, great warriors from all the corners of the earth assembled, setting the scene for what proved to be a devastating world war. Fierce fighting raged for 18 days on the historic plain of Kurukshetra near Astinapura, and in the end, all but a handful of the many millions of warriors survived. Only Lord Krishna, the Pandavas, and a few others survived the massacre. The Kauravas, Duryodhana and his brothers, were devastated. In a desperate gesture of revenge, Ashwatthama, one of the surviving Kaurava members, mercilessly murdered the five sons of Draupadi while they were sleeping. Queen Kunti thus suffered a final blow, the loss of her grandchildren. Arrested and dragged to the Pandavas' camp like a bound animal, Ashwatthama was let free only by the astounding compassion of Draupadi, the slaughtered boy's mother, and Kunti's daughter in law. who pleaded for his life. But the shameless Ashwatthama made one more attempt to kill the last heir of the Pandavas, their unborn grandson, in the womb of Uttara by hurling the supreme Brahmastra weapon. When she saw the missile flying straight at her, Uttara immediately ran to the shelter of Lord Krishna, who was just about to depart for Dwaraka, his majestic capital city. Krishna protected the Pandavas and their mother Kunti from imminent death by stopping the weapon's uncontrollable heat and radiation with his own Sudarshana disc. Having delivered the Pandavas from this last calamity and seeing that all his plans were fulfilled, Lord Krishna was again preparing to leave. For years, Duryodhana had tormented Queen Kunti's family, but Krishna had protected them at every turn, and now he was going away. Kunti was overwhelmed, and she prayed to Krishna from the core of her heart. Kunti was Lord Krishna's aunt. Krishna had incarnated as the son of her brother Vasudeva. Yet, despite this conventional tie with the Lord, she fully understood his exalted and divine identity. She knew very well that he had descended from his abode in the spiritual world to rid the earth of demoniac military powers and re establish righteousness. Just before the Great War, Krishna had revealed all this to her son Arjuna in words immortalized in the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 7th and 8th verse. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practices, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I incarnate myself, in order to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re establish the principles of religion. I advent myself millennium after millennium. Krishna had accomplished his purpose of annihilating the miscreants by orchestrating the destruction of the unholy Kauravas. Then he installed Yudhishthira on the throne to establish the Pandava reign, and he consoled the slain warriors' relatives. The scene of the Lord's imminent departure provides the setting for Queen Kunti's exalted prayers. As Kunti approached the Lord's chariot and began to address him, her immediate purpose was to persuade him to remain in Astinapura and protect the Pandava government from reprisals. My dear Lord, are you leaving us today, though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us, now when all the kings are at enmity with us? This is given in the Bhagavatam verse, 1st canto, 8th chapter, 37th verse. From this supplication, we should not mistakenly conclude that Kunti's prayers were self serving. Although her sufferings were far greater than those of any ordinary person, she does not beg relief. On the contrary, she prays to suffer even more, for she reasons that her suffering will increase her devotion to the Lord and bring her ultimate liberation. My dear Lord Krishna, your Lordship has protected us from the poisoned cake, from a great fire, from cannibals, from the vicious assembly, from sufferings during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great generals fought. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. Bhagavatam, first canto, 8th chapter, 24th and 25th verse. Kunti's words, the simple and illuminating outpourings of the soul of a great and saintly woman devotee, reveal both the deepest transcendental emotions of the heart and the most profound philosophical and theological penetrations of the intellect. Our words are our words are the words of glorification, impelled by a divine love steeped in wisdom. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 8th chapter, 42nd verse. Kunti's spontaneous glorification of Lord Krishna and her description of the spiritual path are immortalized in the Mahabharata and the Bhagavata Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, and they have been recited, chanted, and sung by sages and philosophers for thousands of years. As they appear in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, Queen Kunti's celebrated prayer consists of only 26 couplets, verses 18 through 43 of the 18th of the 8th chapter. Yet they are considered a philosophical, theological, and literary masterpiece. These explanations, teachings of Queen Kunti includes those inspired verses and an illuminating commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and renowned Vedic scholar and spiritual leader. I create these audio lessons based on the scriptures often. If you do not want to miss them, press the subscribe button and the bell icon. Don't forget to share with your friends and give a thumbs up. Thank you. Have a great day.